Hi, we are students from Harmony School of Nature located in Dallas, Texas. Today we will demonstrate to you how to do the water suspension experiment and we will talk to you all about how it works. The main purpose of our PBL project is to find out whether or not water will stay inside a jar when flipped upside down. In order to accomplish this task, we will need to know why water is suspended and how. Beyond this point, we can use glass jars and an index card to make sure that the properties of water will allow it to stay within the jar. In this experiment, atmospheric pressure is the force that holds the index card in place. The card stays on the upside down jar because of the pressure of the air molecules pushing up on the card is greater than the weight of the water pushing down. The water stays in the jar when the card is removed because of the surface tension. Surface tension refers to the tension of the surface film of a liquid caused by the attraction of particles in the surface layer by the bulk of the liquid, which tends to minimize surface area. Math and science principle behind this experiment. The concept of suspension is what this experiment is based upon. A suspension is a mixture between two substances and is a type of heterogeneous mixture where solid particles do not dissolve in a liquid solution. It is possible that the solid may be separated from the liquid by leaving it to stand or by filtration. One way you can tell if a solution has been suspended is by looking at the physical characteristics. Suspensions are non-uniform in color. This experiment also covers the properties of air. Air is the most common gas on Earth and exhibits elastic properties. It can be squeezed smaller or decompressed. Another concept this experiment covers is air pressure and surface tension. The surface of a liquid behaves as if it has a thin membrane stretched over it, and a force called cohesion, which is the attraction of molecules, causes this effect. The materials that you need in order to perform this experiment includes transparent sheets, water, glass jars, plastic screen mesh, big plastic container, and plastic index card. Setup. The first step is to place the plastic screen mesh over the opening of one of the jars and use the ring portion of the lid to cover the jar. With scissors, cut around the lid to cut off the edges of the plastic mesh. Then place the screen over the opening of the jar and twist on the lid to seal the jar with the mesh staying in place. The second step is to pour water into the jar without needing to remove the mesh nor the outer ring portion of the lid. The third step is to place the index card on top of the lid with the fully containing water. Then, with a good grip on both the index card and the jar, carefully flip the jar upside down. The fourth step is to seize hold to the card. The card should be able to stay on the bottom of the jar without holding it. This is the part of the magic trick since the water suspension is able to hold the card. The final step is to remove the card from the jar slowly across the surface of the mesh. The water should be able to stay within the jar without spilling. For an extra effect, you can hold the jar above someone's head while removing the card to show that this actually works and that water suspension will keep the water from spilling. Now we are going to talk about the history and its social and economic connection. Water suspension wasn't invented for scientific purposes, but was originally made as a magic trick. Water suspension, also known as Tenley water suspension, was invented by U.F. Grant in 1962. Grant was a very well-known magician. He came up with multiple innovations in magic and wrote many books on illusions from the 1930s to the 1960s. This is truly an amazing science magic trick because several scientific principles come into play to make the water appear to be suspended in the jar. Like atmospheric pressure and surface tension. The surface of the liquid behaves as if it has a thin membrane stretched over it. A force called cohesion, which is the attraction of similar molecules to each other, causes this effect. This concept of water suspension also affects people socially and politically and directly impacts our society. For our English component, my partners and I created a series of journal entries in which we expressed and wrote down what we did to ensure that our project will be a success. In total, we had 9 journal entries, each written on different days throughout the course of 1 week. In the journal entries, we talk about how long the experiment was and how it was going and the process. Overall, we learned a lot with this experiment, and we had a lot of fun. Thanks for watching Harmony School of Nature.